All right, Shalom. I want to start out by giving all praise and glory unto you. How about Shema Shabbat Shema Kakodash, the bonus apostle of the great millstone. Shalom to the Akim out there pushing the word of sincerity and the truth. Yeah, I want to do this lesson just pertaining to, the fall of Babylon the Great, of course, as we know in the scriptures, being America, and we're seeing every inkling in this society starting to bottom out. It held its weight for a certain set amount of time. You had the roaring ages of America where they didn't have any type of, this was pertaining to supply chains. They had supply chains and these different things running like well-oiled machines, man. Products and distributions were flowing better than ever. Everything was optimal. The price of living wasn't extremely hard to grasp. You could work in these different industrial and manufacturing based jobs and you could make a damn good living. Be a major breadwinner, be able to sustain your household and all your things that you need, that seems fit to keep your life in a balanced flow. And as time progresses, of course, we know the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema speaks about the end of these kingdoms manifesting in these latter times, and we damn sure see the fall of Babylon the Great. And one of the main things, I'm predominantly looking at the supply chain. These different goods are going through these different bottlenecks. The distribution of products is becoming extremely hard to stay on top of, and that's one of Esau's bread and butter. The scripture says that through our traffic has thou basically gotten much riches. So Esau is even losing the ability to traffic XYZ. That's why it's going to be a major shutdown. All right. A shutdown, the likes that never has been seen since the beginning of the world. The demand of products is becoming higher and higher, and the supply of these different to supply these different demands is becoming harder and harder. So I want to highlight this on the supply chain disruptions causing order delays, staff shortages, and production stalls. 88% of organizations face supply chain disruptions in the past year. The biggest impacts were customers facing delays, and we've all dealt with aggressive delays on certain things that we were trying to get, whether it was essential or non-essential. And even with this whole thing with the sickness outbreak that took place, it showed that it was major delays in a lot of these different countries to get certain items that were needful for the production, of medicine to keep these different societies afloat. A lot of these different nations did horribly. A lot of them had to depend on America. And guess what? America is losing its grips as being that world power. China sees that America is struggling. All these other nations see that America is struggling. Even though it is still a so-called top-tier country, it only lasts so long. Look at Rome. Rome imploded, stretching too far the military, stretching too much of the coin system, which was their monetary system, of course, the denarius. Wars that were taking place in the inside and the outside. Water supply. They had lead poisoning throughout Rome. It was a lot of things that crippled Rome, and the same things are crippling America. So it says customers facing delays. That's 58%. Staff shortages. Here it is. We're in a time where there's not even enough work to supply Americans. You have also a labor shortage at that. However the hell that makes sense. These Americans are just trying to sit down and get a check. And it seems like they're all juggling the same bank account. And one person giving money to this individual, because a lot of these individuals are on government assistance, and they'll buy food, give it back to the government. The government will give it back to them through these different government assistance based programs. And guess what? Like I said, it's staff shortages. So Esau is still hitting and being crippled economically, and it's gonna get to the point where, all right, we're facing hits. We're gonna have to make these Americans face more hits in order to balance, get order, balance with society. Stalling of production, company couldn't keep up with the demand and capacity restrictions. Yeah, so this is only gonna get worse. We're gonna see these things continue to go downhill. And it's gonna get to the point where it's gonna be overwhelming for the staff, overwhelming for management. They're gonna want you to, depending on what type of job they're gonna want you to put out more while paying and maintaining your pay, or if not less pay. Well, in most cases, they're not gonna reduce your pay. They're gonna make you maintain a certain amount of pay, but they're gonna try to up the production rate, knowing damn near you're not gonna be able to meet the odds. And if you do meet the odds, the blowback is you start to get depressed, extremely depressed, being in these different manufacturing based facilities in these different warehouses. That's gonna eventually make you quit. All right, so that's the cycle that we're going through, and the majority of these Americans, they don't have any type of mind frame of really. Well, Americans are really just tired of America on the whole. Without saying it consciously, they don't want to work. They don't want to, grind. And really, of course, that's not even in our nature to work under different nations, because we see the shit doesn't add up to anything anyways. Excuse my French. But these Americans are catching on to a lot of bull crap that the government is coming with. And they're tired. Like I said, they're already malnourished and distracted as it is. Said the average American just spends 7-8 hours on these different phones and devices. So they already don't have the mindset to dish out goals. They already seen their forefathers and things of that nature, and they see value to most people now is just views. All right, comments. Most of these Americans don't care about living paycheck to paycheck, due to the fact that they feel like the modern currency is how much comments and subscribers you could generate, and how much fun you can have in these different streets. The point system of life has altered. This is really like a Black Mirror episode we're in a time loop of. And that's why Esau is going to have to, come up with a higher standard that American people are going to have to live and conduct themselves off of. That's just like how China has a social credit system. America's going to come up with a system. Credit is a system. But guess what? They're going to dig that pit deeper to put you in this perpetual digital system. And the main device to keep you connected to all people is that radio frequency identification device. Isaiah 19:15. Neither shall there be any work in Egypt which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. Yeah, so the work is becoming more and more scarce. Homelessness is becoming more and more. You had I'm saying CEOs are quitting at a phenomenal rate. A lot of these different production warehouses, they're being shipped overseas, which is making it more scarce to even get a somewhat decent job, whatever the hell that means, but a somewhat decent job here in America. And if you don't have any credentials or skill, even if you do have credentials and skill, if you're in the so-called middle class, guess what? Being a middle class is the new poor. Middle class citizens live paycheck to paycheck. Either you at the top or the bottom. All right. And if you're at the middle, you're pretty much at the bottom. All right. No matter if you're making, 100,000 plus, annually per household, still pretty much at the bottom. You see? So the only thing that it boils down to is fighting for salvation. The scripture says that the captive exile hasteth that he shall be loosed from the prison, that he shall not die in the pit. This pit, whether you're in the middle of the pit or at the very, very bottom of the pit, nonetheless, it's the pit. If you're in a higher position in the pit, you can see the light. You could get a little bit more sunlight, vitamin from the actual sun. But guess what? You're still in the pit. Like if you're throwing slop in the pit, you might get a bigger handful if you're damn near at the top of the pit. And then it trickles on down to the ones that could, get the lesser crumbs, But we're fighting to get up out of this pit, to get delivered, and for the Most High to destroy this whole setup that has been designed to crush us for ages, keep us in this perpetual bondage. That's why it says, remember now thy creators in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. And the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong man shall bow themselves, and the grinders, which grinding is indicative of work, the grinders cease, stop, because there are few, and those that look out of the window be darkened. Yeah, so the work is getting lower, the pay is getting worse, the living conditions is getting harder to sustain, the housing market is constantly increasing. That's not even supportive of the labor market. Shortages are going to continue, supply chain disruptions, the food market is going to constantly become topsy-turvy, inflation, stagflation, hyper, and eventually goes to hyperinflation. So we're seeing the end. The Most High is plaguing America as he plagued ancient Egypt and the other nations that held the people of Israel into captivity, in the clutches, all right, of these heathen nations. So hopefully, this is edifying. Just wanted to make it short and sweet. I'm gonna end by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Shema, Shah, Shema, Kakwadash. Double honor to the apostle, elders, great millstone. Shalom, Akim.